right, folks, welcome to Matrix Live. It is demo day. We've had lots of demos this month, and this is the final set. So we have two. We've got Nad, who is going to talk us through spaces and like not just sci-fi the future. This is what we think. This is where we actually are homing in on. And Hubert is going to give the first ever demo of Matrix integrated with message layer security, which is kind of like a attempt at an open standard for end-to-end encryption. So those are two demos. Nad, are you ready to take it away?
Yeah, why not?
Great.
Cheers. Let me share my screen. All of your lovely faces. I've got some cue cards actually for myself, just because I wanted to frame the demo slightly for people that maybe are lacking some context as well. So I'll run through the stuff really briefly and then switch out to the demo really shortly. But spaces, you might have heard this word before, maybe you haven't, but we'll start with the problem basically. Today, Matrix is built around a room-first model where we use rooms for topics or we use rooms to communicate directly with people. And this is great when you are manually inviting people, but it means you need to, this relies on you having to manually invite people, and it creates a discoverability problem where it's hard to be able to browse and discover all of these rooms easily. If you join a lot of rooms, you can't navigate them over time. And it's also one common piece of feedback that we get from teams and organizations is that as it stands today, it's very difficult to represent a hierarchy in any way, shape or form. So today, most people use Element with something that looks like this, where you have a bunch of rooms, you have a bunch of people, and you have a bunch of favorites. And once you have a lot of these things, the whole model kind of falls down. We do have, in this panel over here, we do have an existing implementation that lets you tag rooms, but it's used by a very select few group of people, because there's a few quirks with it. And so we're essentially rethinking all these problems from the ground up. And then, so the core goal really is to allow you to communicate over big groups of topics or to communicate with big groups of people. And we want to let you kind of represent different hierarchies. So maybe if you have a company and then you have a London office and a New York office, and then within that you have a marketing department and a different department, and then they've got different projects and so on and so forth. We want to try and make all of this as discoverable and usable and scalable as something like a file system, and really empowering, which is something that we think, or we hear is an area that most people aren't feeling quite as empowered as they'd like to at the moment. And there's a few different major personas that we're also trying to serve as well. So for the first version, we're focusing on public communities, where the goal there is that I can create a collection of rooms and I can just broadcast them and people can join them with the least amount of friction needed. Workspaces, so for projects and teams, where you can create a private workspace and then have confidence that it is private, but once people join, they can easily discover any topics or any people that they want to really easily. And then another use case, which is more unique to Matrix, is that as you can use Matrix for the mixture of public and private use cases, we want to let you just organize any views that you want. So maybe the organization or the hierarchy that you've joined on a team sucks, and you just want to pull out a few rooms into a specific group that makes your life easier. Or maybe you want to grab a few of your favorite rooms to be able to share that with another group of friends or something like that. And so really the different use cases for spaces they're as kind of multi-use as real world spaces. And that's why we've ended up calling these spaces and pivoted away from words like groups, which can be conflated with group chats, or communities, which can be quite narrow in their focus. So that's just a bit of an overview of what we're trying to do. And then we have a demo of where we've got to so far, actually. So I've got a test account here with Ralph. And Ralph's using Element, as you would do today. He's chatting to some people and he's chatting in some rooms. And on the left here, we have a new create a space experience where I can create a space. And the first thing I can do is figure out whether this is going to be a space that I'm going to broadcast publicly, or whether it's a space that I might use privately. And so for this, let's go with private first, actually. And then one of the most important things that we found when we've been doing research and kind of watching people either get along with or have friction with getting going with the app is that when you're on the receiving end of any invite, be it for a room or a person, or when you're joining a company or whatever, we think it's really important that you have some personalized context anytime you're joining a new thing. So we're pushing people quite heavily to personalize and customize spaces when they create them. So I've got some images here. For the private space, let's make an evil space, because we want to do evil things in private. Evil things in private. Let's just call it evil, actually. And then create this. And then this is creating a space on Matrix. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just tell the space how I'm going to use it, basically. So for now, let's just say that it's going to be, in fact, no, let's go with teammates. So if you create a space to use for a project or a team, the other thing is we think it's really important that you use the most appropriate method to onboard people into the team. And if it is literally a team, then email is probably best for that. So you can invite by Matrix ID if you like, but otherwise we're front loading email first, because chances are that's probably the most appropriate thing for this context. I'm not going to demo email invites right now, so I'm just going to skip for now, actually. Ooh, dangerous demos. Sorry, I'm going to do this again. This is very leading edge, and I think Skip might have skipped too many steps. Let's just do that again. Create teammates, next, skip this. Oh no. So the context here is that this code shipped minutes ago.
You should just be able to click next instead of skip, hopefully, even with no emails. Oh wait, no, it might demand an email. Oh crap.
Yeah, let's make it as a private for myself, like my own personal layer. Why not? Okay, let's try for me. And then, okay, here we go. So ordinarily, after you've invited some people, or before inviting, actually, that was the bug. The other thing we think is really important is that you can't have empty spaces. You need to have some kind of default topics. So let's just have an evil lair. Let's have taking over the world. And what else is evil? Struggling to think of evil things. Wet socks, they're quite evil. And then all these rooms are created, and then I can invite people to this space. And then when they join, they would also join all these rooms, and they'd also be able to communicate with anyone that's a member of this private space. And then likewise, I'll just run through creating a public space. So what did okay. This is also a very dangerous path. So let's say you want to create a public space on protocols, because I've joined a couple of rooms on Matrix to talk about protocols. Probably not going to create any rooms on this for now. But because it's a public space, we're prioritizing sharing that with an invite link. So these are actually using matrix.2. So the idea is if you did create a public space, you could just broadcast that wherever you want, put it on your website, put it in your Twitter profile, your Mastodon profile, whatever, and then people can just join. But what I wanted to show with this is actually adding some rooms that you've joined. So here's the rooms that I'm idling in as well. And then I can add these in here. And then again, let's see if this is going to work. This might not work. I'm going to try and message myself, actually. So in theory, if I message my real account from here and do a direct message. Okay, bug number 2. But the other thing that we're doing is anytime you share a space with someone, we'll also surface them in that space. So if you are joining multiple spaces, you'll have direct access to the same direct messages with people that you have in common in different spaces. And over time, this should be a really kind of good natural way to organize very disconnected rooms in Matrix into way more useful groups of rooms in general. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of the demo. I had some more cue cards that I wanted to show. I guess one other thing that I'll mention is we've also got the concept of something called home, which is playing up slightly here, or where basically If you have organized all of your rooms into different spaces, then we think you need a really easy way to be able to springboard to all of your favorites across all of those spaces. And separately, we think you need a kind of good kind of contact book experience where you can easily access a more intimate part of the app that's full of all of your direct messages, and that's what home will be, as well as we need a place for rooms which don't belong to spaces. So any spaceless rooms that would be totally misplaced in a space they don't belong to will also be discoverable via home. And then the other stuff that we're looking at is we're exploring the idea of hierarchies, like I said. Actually, the way that these will work is that you'll be nesting spaces within each other infinitely, the same way that you could nest folders or directories within each other infinitely in a file system. And this should be a really kind of beautiful, scalable way to be able to organize any communication any way that you want. We're still figuring out a few details because there's a lot of usability traps. Like, for example, if I join a room that's nested quite deep, how do I know when I get messages in it? And so for now, for V1, we are going to expose hierarchies when you're exploring spaces. And then we're working on some prototypes at the moment internally for how we could also expose them in the room list as well. And there's some really exciting stuff coming out, which will be hopefully ready to show off for the next demos next month, actually, but it's looking really good. And I went over the direction for sharing spaces before, so really just customizing the best way for you to achieve your goal depending on your context, be it links for communities, email invites for teammates, and so on and so forth. And that's pretty much it, actually. There's a bunch of upcoming work. All of this is mid-development, as you can see, but it's really promising. We've also completed the initial SDK work on Android, but this is already you can play around with it on web, on riots.im/ad/hoc/spaces3. As you can see from the demo, this is very bleeding edge, so don't use real world accounts on this. Don't have too high expectations of how happy the paths are going to be, but it all exists and it's all looking really promising. And we've got a little laundry list of things that are next on the list. So if you want to check out the MSC, it's 1722, and that's kind of the best place to look at for the most canonical critical thinking. Otherwise, there's a bunch of related features, like we need to get peeking over federation working so that you can preview spaces reliably. So if someone does tell you about a space, then you can preview all the metadata we were talking about, like the avatars and descriptions and who's in the space if it's public. So that way you can make an informed decision about joining before you do. We've been working on deep links, so on mobile especially, this is huge. So the ability for the apps to be aware, if someone invites you, for you to be able to tap on a link, go through to the App Store, install the app, and then when you launch the app be aware of where you are going to. So that way you can get pointed in the right direction rather than just downloading the app with this really cold start and you don't know where to go next. As well as kind of other related features like improving email, thripped invites, both on the technical side and on the usability side, so that they're super clear for new users. And in future, things like knocking, so that if you do see a space in the wild, you can just knock to have permission to join. And other things like incremental sign up, where you could see a space advertised online, join it, and then start talking before creating an account even, and kind of start going as a guest and just incrementally build up your account piece by piece as you need to. But that's Spaces in a nutshell, with a very bleeding edge demo as well in the middle. And that's where we are.
Thank you, Ned. This looks really good. I hadn't seen it, so it's really exciting, coming together nicely. Looking forward to having it around. Any questions for Ned? All right. Do we have a Hubert to tell us about more encryption?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey.
Hopefully the demo hasn't broken in the last 5 minutes. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, it doesn't want to share my screen. That's interesting. Let me leave and join again. I'll be back in a sec.
Michael, I think you were highlighting that the MSC is 1772 rather than 1722, which I think was written on that slide.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it gives us a bit of time to fix this one. Welcome back, Hubert. Are you here?
I'm here. Okay.
Yeah.
I can share
Cool.
the screen.
Yay, we see it.
Okay. So this is a demo of why I am not a UI designer. So I've created a very, very simple demo client, matrix client that is supposed to use MLS. Oh no, did I do that wrong?
You want to tell us what MLS is? Just quickly.
Yeah, MLS stands for Messaging Layer Security, which is an upcoming IETF standard for encryption in chat systems. So it's the main advantage over what we have right now in Ohm and Mega-Ohm is it's supposed to be a lot faster for large groups. So what I have is a very simple client that only pretends that the world only consists of one room. So I'm going to create that room. So I've logged in 2 tabs. So there are 2 different clients. So it's created a room and set the encryption algorithm. So these are all state events. I don't know why there are 2 room create events, but anyways, it sets the room encryption algorithm to this long string, which is basically an MLS version. It's an unstable version. In my second client, you can see that it has the same encryption algorithm. This here is, this icon here means that this is a 2-device event. And this is basically the first client has sent the current state of the MLS tree to the second client. And so this is all encrypted. And if I send a message from here, then it will not show up here because I have a bug somewhere. But if we go down to the console, then this is the message that was sent. So I have some sort of decoding issue here somewhere, which is why it's not showing up properly. But you can see here, the body is, whoops, the body is hello world. So it's getting the message, it's just having some problems decoding it. And I just need to figure out why it's adding this random garbage here. So yeah, this is just encryption and decryption. So it cannot add or remove any users yet. So right now, once the room is created, you're just stuck with whatever users and devices were in the room when the room was created. But I will be working on that after I fix this decoding issue. So
cool. So basically what you've done is replaced Ohm and Mega-Ohm by MLS.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That's exciting. And next step is decentralized. Decentralized MLS is one step further, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Nice. Any questions? Anyone?
Yeah, this also has the benefit of potentially end-to-end encryption bridging with other networks if they also implement MLS. Is that correct?
They would also need to implement the same payload format. But yeah, if they do that and they implement MLS and they implement MLS in the same way, then possibly, maybe, potentially.
And how far are you with DMLS? Is that what we're calling it? And is that backwards compatible with MLS?
No, it will not be backwards compatible with MLS because it will need to do various calculations in different ways. But yeah, as far as progress, I have some ideas which seem to be working in my extremely simple test cases. And so once I have MLS working more fully, then I will test those ideas out in a more real life scenario and see if it still works.
Cool, thank you.
Anything else from anyone? Awesome. Thank you, Hubert. Thank you, everyone, for the demos. Bye.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas, everyone.
Bye.
Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Bye.